Chris Sims, best friend of head coach Kyle Shanahan. Chris Sims recently said that he does not think the Niners are going to be in the Super Bowl. He says they're chippy and they're going to be a pain in the butt. They're being overlooked, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're in the Super Bowl window. No way. That's not who they are. But they're being overlooked, but they're not in the Super Bowl window. What do you think of Chris Sims, best friend of Kyle Shanahan, saying that?
Well, I think Chris Sims can't remember a simple play call. We all know he's famous for it.
He was 22.
Yep. So his memory's gotten worse. So, anyway, but joke aside, I think he's overlooking the Niners. I think when healthy, I have had this opinion for the Niners the last 5 years. When healthy, the Niners can compete with any football team in the league. Period. End of story. With the coaching staff they have, the talent they have, the vets they have, they can compete with any team in the NFL. Yes, right this second, I can see that being true. Dude, we have one healthy receiver, we have one healthy cornerback, and we have one healthy starting safety, possibly. But fully healthy, the 49ers can easily win a Super Bowl. I will die on that hill. But, I don't know.
To me, I always feel like Sims and Kyle Shanahan are in cahoots. If you have a best friend and you're a good friend, you're always going to be looking out for that guy. I would. And how does this benefit Kyle Shanahan? Well, I think it lowers the expectations for the 49ers. Some Niner fans are thinking, hey, man, easiest schedule in the league. Christian's healthy. Trent's healthy. 10 wins minimum. Yeah. And actually, the expectation is win the freaking division, go back to the Super Bowl. And I think Kyle's like, hey, man, I'm good, but I'm not that good. That's why they keep talking about all the lumps they're going to take this year. I think they're fully expecting to fall short of expectations. And here's a good friend being like, hey, man, I think people are maybe expecting too much from this team in transition.
I thought he said they were being overlooked, so he didn't say they were expecting too much.
Yeah, he said they were being overlooked, but then he said they're not. He said they're not in the Super Bowl window. He's not going to sit here.
Especially if Stafford is hurt, there is no chance Kyle or George or Fred or Trent or anyone talking about lumps is going to convince me this team shouldn't win the division this year. There is more lumps to be had for Seattle and Jimmy Garoppolo and the Rams and Kyler Murray with Black Ops 7 coming out this year than there is for the Niners. There is 0% chance you are convincing me that if Kyle and Purdy do not win the division this year, if Stafford's hurt, if Stafford's not hurt, sure. If he is hurt, there is 0%. There's no way Kyle's going to be able to shed accountability to anyone else for me. I don't care.
I just kind of get the feeling that while maybe you and I feel that Kyle Shanahan is on the hot seat, or that if he, something's at stake, if he were to not make the playoffs, he should get fired. I kind of get the feeling that he and Robert Saleh have gotten some assurances look, we're going to slash a lot of spending, get rid of a lot of players, start a bunch of rookies, and don't worry, we're not going to fire you yet. We might fire you in a couple years, but you get a year to sort of tinker around and mess around. And that's why they're talking about all the lumps they're going to take.
No. So, okay. You said the one thing I don't agree with what you said is not make the playoffs. I don't think there is any wiggle room for not making the playoffs. They just made George the highest paid tight end in the league. They just made Fred the highest paid linebacker in the league. And I don't ever see that being a possibility. I think we're not crazy for thinking if Kyle doesn't make the playoffs with this schedule, he's on the hot seat. There's no excuse to not at least make the playoffs unless quite literally every receiver and every cornerback gets hurt.
Well, literally every receiver is hurt right now.
Pearsall's not.
Yet it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Dude, if you have one healthy receiver and you still have Christian McCaffrey and you have the best tight end in the league and you have the best left tackle in the league, there's no excuse. Don't care. Throw it to Pearsall and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey every play. That's why we're paying them ungodly amounts of money outside of Ricky Pearsall, is to have a core. Dude, Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl against us with Juju Smith-Schuster.
To me, when a team's talking about taking lumps, that means that they're not going to be that upset if they lose to the Seahawks week 1, because they said, look, I mean, it's kind of the side effect of doing what they're doing. If they lose a game or 2 or 3 they're not supposed to lose, they're going to be like, oh, well, it's the rookies. Sorry.
I could see that outside of missing the playoffs. Yes, sure. If they go 10-7 and make the playoffs, I could see them going like, yeah, we knew we were going to take some lumps, but we're here in the playoffs and we're ready to compete, especially with the state of the team's health right now. But I'm telling you, if they don't make the playoffs, I do not see the Yorks being like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, yeah, we just paid George and Fred up the ass. Who cares? Like,
yeah. Well, maybe this is Kyle's friend trying to prevent the Yorks from doing something like that. Again, he says they're going to be chippy. They're chippy and they're going to be a pain in the butt. They're being overlooked, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're in the Super Bowl window. No way. That's not who they are. To me, that sounds like the 2024 49ers. And they were 6-11, but they were in a bunch of close games. They weren't ever they were blown out a couple of times, but really towards the end of the season when the wheels fell off. Most of the time they were in close games and they lost those close games. And that's the mark of a team that's not that good. And I feel like that's what Chris Sims is trying to prepare us for. A team that's going to be tough in the mix, but ultimately losing by 3 points.
So, and you have to remember, because if you ask the players, every player says we can win a Super Bowl this year. Like every single player has said, we have the pieces. Yes. Remember what we said when we were talking about Nick Bosa last week? He has no more guaranteed money after, what is it, this year or next year?
I think last year's the last year we guaranteed money.
Okay, so he's going to have no more guaranteed money. There's no way they can go into this year without getting rid of Nick and be like, oh, yeah, like we're just fidgeting around. I think if they were truly like, if we don't make the playoffs, that's fine, they would have gotten rid of Nick this offseason. Because my guess is they're not re-signing him next year.
Well, his cap number jumps to $42 million in 2026, which is 14% of the cap, which is, I mean, exorbitant for a quarterback, let alone a defensive end. So it might be the Niners interest to like restructure. And, you know, Bosa's now underpaid considering the defensive end market is like $41 million a year if you're really good. So something could happen there. Yes.